And that's where STEM comes into play, not just looking at something. They have to be creative in what they're doing, whether it's coding, whether it's programming, the engineering part of it at that young age, right?
Hello there, and welcome to today's episode of the Easy EdTech podcast. If we haven't connected yet, my name is Monica Burns. I'm a former New York City public school teacher, and I've been out of the classroom for several years now, leading professional development for educators and writing about all things EdTech on my blog, classtechtips.com. You may be used to joining me on Tuesdays for new episodes of the podcast, but today I've got a special bonus episode for you in partnership with OmniPro. This is number 5 in what I'm calling an ISTE Spotlight series. It's the last one where we are really excited and celebrating the big ISTE Live conference that took place in Philadelphia at the end of June, with some spotlights on companies that are exhibiting there, are excited about ISTE, have something new to share. And today I'm bringing you another special bonus episode on a Sunday underneath this umbrella. Before we jump into today's episode, quick reminder, you can head to my website, classtechtips.com/podcast for all of the show notes and resources from today's episode. And if you're listening to this episode on a podcast player like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or maybe Google Podcasts, you should see a link in the description. You can click on it, it'll say show notes, and then you can get all of the resources we talk about. This episode is sponsored by OmniPro, a partner of Magic Bits. Magic Bits STEM educational kits are made for coding, robotics, Internet of Things, IoT, and electronics. Today's episode's titled Using STEM Kits to Support Hands-On Learning, a bonus episode with OmniPro. And I talk with Ranjan de Costa, the Chief Executive Officer, and Ed Meyer, a sales manager on their team, about the importance of STEM and what it looks like for kids to get hands-on. Let's jump into today's conversation. Welcome to the podcast. I am so excited to chat with you both today about STEM education, the power of STEM kits, and how they can support student learning. But before we get into that part of our conversation, would love to hear a little bit from you both. What is your role in education? What does your day-to-day look like?
Thank you, Monica. This is Ranjan de Costa. I'm the founder and CEO of OmniPro, based here in San Francisco, with offices in Rochester, New York, Ventura, SoCal, and West Chicago. We've been in business since 1991, so 32 years now. And primarily our focus in our business has been education, K through 12 and higher ed. We do business in other areas as well, but this has been our focus. We are very honored and happy to state that we are one of T-Mobile's elite partners. I think one of 3 or 4 they have. So the reason for that is we do a lot of connectivity with them, specifically after COVID, distant learning, connectivity was an issue. So they provide the connectivity and we provide the Chromebooks and laptops for the kids to take it home and study. So that is a little bit of who we are and what we do. We have pretty good base around the country, actually, in a lot of states, where we deal with a lot of K through 12 school districts. And we offer a bundle solution. We are not a box shipper, we are a solution provider. So we provide white glove services wrapped around with a comprehensive warranty policy for the schools. And we do a lot of hand holding as well. If the schools want anything, we have our team, ready to answer any questions they have. That in a nutshell is who we are and what we do. We are a Lenovo Platinum partner, which means we get preferential pricing on Lenovo. We are also with the Lenovo, HP, as well as Dell. So the 3 large OEMs whom we have partnered with. And I'll ask Ed to see. Ed Meyer is our sales director, so he interacts a lot with the school districts since we are focusing on the education here. And Ed, would you have a few stories?
Thanks, Roger. Hi, my name is Ed Meyer. I'm the sales director here at OmniPro. been working with Ron, John, and Krish and the gang since 2015, and it's been a really amazing development to see the company kind of, with the partnership in T-Mobile in 2017, we really kind of grew from, a Bay Area focused company to a nationally focused company. And that's been just a, very exciting development. And like Ranjan said, I work directly with the schools a lot, but I also work with the T-Mobile reps and the OEMs. So I'm kind of trying to figure out when we can get stuff in from overseas, what's the schedule going to be, making promises or, assurances to the teachers on when we'll have their stuff to be sure that they've got it for the beginning of school, and kind of then doing my best to make sure that actually happens. And for the most part, it does. So, that's kind of, our days are varied, but that's what it is. It's basically dealing with people in all three segments throughout the day to make sure that things work smoothly as possible.
Yeah, and making sure everyone has what they need, right, for a successful school year.
Exactly.
So, and we're talking today specifically around STEM education, which for many listeners is a familiar term, right? Something that they have experience with or explore different types of resources for. But would love to hear from you both, given your experience, why do you believe that STEM education is important?
Currently, what they say is that we are now in Industry 4.0, right? STEM and the technology is changing rapidly, as we all know, right? With AI and various things coming in to the marketplace. So it's pervasive based on, the homes and the schools and the industry specifically, right? Where STEM has been introduced. STEM, as you know, is science, technology, education, and math, right? Which is now Department of Education has mandated that it be a part of the curriculum in K through 12 schools. STEM specifically is focused for kids 8 through 13, I believe, which is grade 3 to 8. Specifically, that's what they have done. The World Economic Forum in 2023 predicts that the skills needed for future generations would be critical thinking, right? And thinking outside the box because of the competitiveness in the kids, right? So they have to think. And that's where STEM comes into play, not just looking at something. They have to think, be creative in what they're doing, whether it's coding, whether it's programming, the engineering part of it at that young age, right? So this generation is being educated for the future, what is going to hold. That is one of the reasons that the Department of Education, in fact, recently released $87 million for STEM education, just the basics of it, right? So that in a nutshell, and it provides a lot of opportunities for kids, when they do all this stuff, and that's how these kids can think outside the box and be creative.
I think that's Ranjan hit it right on the head. I think, for better or worse, the robots are taking over. So, we might want to, for the future generations, you're going to have to learn how to interact with them if you want to be useful. And, STEM, that's what STEM is all about. I do not have a technical background, and believe me, I wish I had, in those early years out of college. It was difficult finding a job. So I think there's kind of long-term, way to look about the future of the world. Like I don't think we have enough doctors going forward. So we need people to learn about, get a STEM base so that they can become the medical practitioners in the year ahead to take care of, the aging population. But there's also, very personal things for people, like, how are you going to support yourself over the next, 20, 30 years? You're going to have to find a job. The economy is changing, and, who knows exactly where it's going, but it's going to have a very big technical component. And if we want to give our kids a chance to compete, they have to learn early on. Strangely
enough, they're calling the kids today, I think it's called Generation Z and Alpha, right? So that's like a buzzword today with these kids in school. So that was one of the reasons we wanted to bring STEM into our product portfolio, is to have a complete solution when we talk with the schools.
And the critical thinking component that you both mentioned, right? And the changing job market that you both alluded to, right? There's a lot of aspects here of in-depth STEM education that really can support students for the unknowns, right? Maybe it is the robots taking over the world or at least changing, right? The way that we think about the way we interact in different spaces. So is getting kids ready for this future that is here now, can involve these hands-on learning experiences. So I'd love to hear a bit about STEM educational kits, right? How does that really facilitate a hands-on learning experience for students?
So this is what they call activity-based learning, right? So it's not just reading a book or answering a question. They have to actively create things using the STEM products, right? How do I get this to give sound? How do I get it to do the lighting? How do I get the robot to spin around? There are so many aspects to it, right? So that is where the creative learning comes in. And kids at young ages can, obviously there is a nice a guide to the kids, right? This is how you do this. And I hear, or at least what I have read, I have seen that some of the STEM technology has been used in some of the robots they're using today.
The kids have a little bit of a they remind me of like, Legos almost. It's something that the kids are going to want to play with. It's not going to seem like, math homework or whatever. There's going to be a play aspect to it that I think, I know I would have benefited from. Every time I took any sort of coding class, it kind of shot right past me. But the playing aspect, I think, is crucial to get more kids involved. Not necessarily the front of the class kids who are going to pay attention to everything, but the kids in the back who maybe you lose faster.
Yeah, and I think the other thing, Monica, is that they grasp the creativity faster. The qualities are nurtured well, so. Coding using Python, I think it's a step-by-step video tutorial which comes with the STEM product, where they can use a lot of that and create it themselves, right? Just use it as a guide without going into the guide as such. That's how the Magic Bit has been formulated, is to make sure that though they have a tutorial, that they have to think outside the box.
Yeah,
how do I do this? How do I do this? How do I code this? How do I do that? If everything is given to them, then there's
there's multiple ways to do things.
Multiple layers to do things, right? So that's pretty much it's interesting when you read more about STEM, how the kids can really benefit out of it in today's marketplace.
So it sounds like with the support that an educational kit like this, right, a STEM educational kit would provide for an educator who's implementing this in their classroom, or for students who are exploring things independently, it gives them some level of structure and support, but still that flexibility to go out and make something of their own, right? So that foundation, or that core component. So I'm curious, do you have, and I know you mentioned a few different cities that you're located in and implementations across the US, can you share a success story from a classroom or a school or even at the district level where this type of hands-on learning experience, this STEM education infusion really made an impact on students' learning experiences?
Yeah. Before I jump into that, Magic Bit includes what they call an LMS. It's a learning management software that assists the kids in learning all this technology, right? Yeah, it's pretty much self-learning, right? Mm-hmm. And the other thing I would like to, before I jump to the next question, I would like to mention is that the STEM has been built where 3 to 4 kids can use one kit.
Okay.
So the reason they have done it, Monica, is that then you have a team together rather than doing it yourself. So if you have four kids in a classroom doing it, now you have 4 brains looking at the different aspects of how to build the technology, right? So, Steve, why did you do this? Why did you do that? And then he or she can explain, this is why I did it. So they have built it so that 4 kids can use it together so that they spread the knowledge across the 4 of them.
And so as you are, thinking about the connection to problem solving, skill building, or some of the things that are happening in classrooms with this STEM connection, I'd love to hear a little bit more about Magic Bit and how it can really help kids dive into what we've talked about today, right? The critical thinking component, the problem solving skills? How can it help students explore these foundational STEM pieces?
Yeah, so Magic Bit, the STEM educational kit is a good example. It's pretty versatile. There are other products in the market, but where they stand above the rest is the LMS. That's one. Their product is more the programming part of it, the robo, and of course IoT, the Internet of Things, and mainly covering the technology innovation part of STEM education. So it's made basically for, though they say it's made for K through 12, it's actually K3 through 8. That's the magic bit, because they want to focus on the 8.5 to the 13-year-olds. And it is being introduced right now. We personally don't have any, not experience, but we have experience. But using the STEM with our product line, this is something we are launching right at ISTE. So those are some of the salient features STEM has. The price point is one, obviously. The fact that they have certain technological advantages over the competition is another. It's a plug and play module concept, Like, I don't know if you can remember, maybe long before your time. Remember the Meccano sets? I don't know if you can remember Meccano. It was a British product. It was all pieces together. You had to you can build your trains together. It was not STEM, but it is a similar concept. And the main circuit board, which computers do not have, the main circuit board, right? They have 10 pluggable modules. Maybe if we have one, we can just show Monica. Yeah, it's only recording, right? So some of the competitors we have looked at don't have that amount of plug and play modules. It's just a circuit board. That doesn't make sense, right? Here the kids can take the products out, put it in. They can put it in different ways, see how the technology works. Okay, now if I want to get the lights to blink, how do I do that? Right? If I want to get the robo to stand up and go just on his back two wheels, how do I do that? So that type of creativity stands out with Magic Bit to their competition. I think I'm pretty accurate to say that, Monica.
And so it sounds like there's a lot of flexibility there for students
Absolutely.
to take an experience in a different direction, for teachers to be, by their side, but also give them that space to create something that just isn't, wouldn't be possible without these extra supporting resources within the STEM kit.
Yeah, exactly. Because they have a certain curriculum, right? So they have access to the curriculum. So the teacher can say, okay, you guys build this circuit board today, program the robo to play music, right? So that gives them a challenge right now. How do I do that, right?
Yeah.
They have the learning, they have the tutorials are there, right? So they can look at that and do it. I was watching a video where this kid is like 7 or 8 years old, but he was programming and getting the robot to spin all by himself. So that kid maybe, his IQ may be a little higher than another kid, but that was interesting. Watching that video is how he was doing it. And, he was like playing with a toy, actually. But it was not a toy. His brain was thinking all the time. How do I get this to turn? How do I get it to turn left, right, then go straight, then go up on the wheels? He was doing everything.
Yeah, so a lot of deep thinking, using prior experiences, perhaps, right? Or that more free play opportunity to then say, I've got a challenge, I'm working towards this, right? And really having a goal in mind. So I know we're on audio today, right? So holding up something in front of our screen is a little tough for listeners who might be in the car or on the go. But I know I've got a great link to a YouTube video that your team shared that helps really bring some of these pieces to life, that I'll make sure to link out to so everyone can find it and see some of these things in action too. So, that gets me to my last question here, which is, where can people connect with you? Where can they learn more about this work, learn more about Magic Bit, and maybe even see it in action?
Yes. So, they can contact us, omnipro.com. We will have it on our website.
We're thinking about bundling one of these kits into some Chromebook purchases. So customers who haven't had a chance to get it, we'll kind of basically, first ones on us or so they can kind of play with it themselves.
And the other thing, Monica, is that when you take the box, the unit out of the box, they come pre-configured with some examples for kids to experiment with. Mm-hmm. So they'll have about 3 or 4 examples, right? Say, oh, this is cool. Now, what gets them thinking is the example will ask them, okay, so I've got the robot turning left. Now, how do it's pre-configured. Now, how do I turn it right? Mm-hmm. That's where the thinking comes in. They can look at the tutorials. They can look at all the examples there. But it gets them thinking now, oh, well, this is only turning left. Now, how do I turn this right? Now they jump into it. Okay, I think if I do this, if I do this and this, it will turn right. So it's all thinking. It's nothing but thinking. That's, I think, as I said, what they call Generation Z and Alpha, right? Mm-hmm. In today's world, kids, that's pretty much how they will, that'll define everything moving forward.
Well, and I appreciate just that context, right? And that illustration of what's possible and what teachers can even try out themselves, right? If they are able to get their hands on some of these resources. And I will make sure to link out for listeners so that they can connect with your team. They can learn more about your work. But thank you both for your time today and for joining to chat about STEM education.
Thank you. Thank you, Monica. And I hope we answered all your questions. And we hope the listeners will find it intriguing about the new technology for the kids, and what we get out of it is that we'd be honored to be a part of our kids' future, and with their learning ability and the tools, and we will provide the tools for them to learn. At the end of it, it's their future, right, for generations to come. And I don't know, 20, 30 years from now, what is going to be, not STEM, it will be something else, right? Mm-hmm. So thank you for that.
Robots will be programming us.
Yeah. So let's finish up today's episode with a few key points to help make this EdTech easy. Critical thinking is an essential skill. STEM education prepares students for the future. STEM kits can foster unique, collaborative learning experiences. Remember, you can find the show notes and full list of resources from this episode at classtechtips.com/podcast, including all of the ways to connect with the team at OmniPro. Again, a big thank you to our sponsor for this episode, OmniPro. To learn more about MagicBit's STEM educational kits, please visit magicbit.cc. That's magicbit.cc. If you're listening to this podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, or maybe another favorite app, don't forget to hit the follow button so new episodes will download for you automatically. And if you've got a moment today or feeling extra helpful, feel free to tap on the stars or the rating area of your podcast app, leave a sentence or 2 review. It helps other educators find the episode when they are searching for things like EdTech in their podcast app. Have a great week and check back on Tuesday morning for another new episode of the Easy EdTech podcast.